Hi, I'm Dunn, Managing Partner at Strategic Institute for Innovation in Government Contracting. I'm sitting down today with Rick Dunn, our founder, and the pioneer of other transactions within the DoD. That, by the way, is miso in the background, and you may see kimchi, our other cat, here soon. It's the days of COVID. What do you expect? Anyway, we're starting out today as our first in the misinformation series about other transactions, because why not? So today we're going to tackle one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest misinformation issues out there, and that is OTs. What are they? Most people say, OT, oh, I know what other transactions are. They're consortia. Which one do I join? See, that's a problem. And Rick Dunn is going to tell us why that's a problem. Rick?
Thank you, Christian. I am glad to be able to address this question, because it's come up so many times, and time has gone by, and it's still out there as an issue. So consortia have purposes, they especially in research and development. Research joint ventures, consortia have been used effectively with government involvement, without government involvement. However, in the case of other transactions, the fact that they are associated so strongly with consortia, and I think in DoD there are more than 36 of these OT consortia out there today, that people think that's the only thing that other transactions are for, and they miss out on actually the variety of things that other transactions can be. So here are some examples. This first slide shows sort of the typical consortium that has been followed and replicated time after time since the early 2000s. And I call it, it's based on a multiple award task order contract. It's kind of IDIQ with multiple parties, which was first authorized by the Federal Acquisition Streamlining Act in 1994. And the contracting office that first kicked this off basically followed that model, and it's been replicated time after time. Now, there are some, and what are the issues? The issues are, well, the government gets help from a consortium management firm, and the consortium management firm is actually the entity that has a relationship, a contractual privity of contract relationship with the membership of the consortium, and the members of the consortium don't have a relationship among themselves. They have individual agreements with the consortium management firm. There's a variation of this in the next slide. We can have the next slide, which has the consortium management firm soliciting sub-projects among the membership, but then the actual award of the sub-project is made by the government contracting office. And in this model, at least, the government has a direct privity of contract relationship with those that receive awards. By the way, in both these models, while the members pay a fee to the consortium management firm, there's no guarantee that any of these companies will actually receive an award and receive any government money. Next slide, please. Now here's a multi-party agreement that's quite unlike any of these common agreements today. This was one of the first multi-party agreements that DARPA entered into when it received other transactions authorities. We brought together the entire gas turbine engine industry of the United States, 7 companies, huge companies like Rolls, GE, Pratt & Whitney, small companies that built helicopter jet engines and business jet engines. They all put money in. DARPA put money in. NASA Lewis, which is now NASA Glenn, put money in, and the United States Air Force Materiel Lab put money in. The money was obligated when the agreement was signed and went into a bank account and became available until expended. The companies, the private industry selected an integrating subcontractor. That's the terminology that they use. It performs a function somewhat like the consortium management firm that we have in these common consortia agreements. The governance structure of industry was decided by the industry members themselves, and the vote that they got was based on their financial contribution. There was no tax of the flow through of funds from the companies and government down to the performers. Rather, the integrating subcontractor was on a fee-for-service basis. The industry guys cared how their money was spent. Another interesting aspect of this program was the purpose of this program was to get high-performance ceramic fibers into gas turbine engines. Anyone could play. You could be a university, a small company, an established company. Made no difference. You could submit a proposal. However, you had to be partnered with, married with someone who actually produced components, went into engines. The goals of the program were clear, and the program was operated consistent with those goals. So there's an example of a multi-party agreement, which you could call a consortium, but it operates very differently than these common consortia today. And next, please. Here's an interesting example of a real-life program. It was called the Commercial Operations and Support Savings Initiative. And in this program, what was solicited from industry was not the support of any particular program or any particular platform, but rather what was solicited was savings of money for the government in the sustainment regime. And so a proposal would come in, the company would have identified a component or part of a legacy system that it had a commercial product in existence or under development that could essentially serve the same purpose as the government's legacy component or product. The government funded non-recurring engineering, typically with some contribution from the company. A qualified part was created, a kit was created that then had to be qualified. And it had to be qualified that, one, it performed at least as well as the legacy component or part that it was replacing, and it cost less. And if that occurred, then the US government buying command had made a commitment to purchase that product in lieu of restarting a production line of an obsolete part, for example. They knew that they were going to have an ongoing need for 5 or 10 years for that part. And instead of the part that they had been buying, they got a part that was cheaper and typically had better performance. During the course of this program, for the first 2 years of this program, was run by DARPA, $100 million in government R&D funds went in, as well as private sector funding. And over the course of 10 years, the government savings in O&M funds and procurement funds was $3 billion, 30-to-1 ratio. This is what happens when you focus on goals and realize the flexibility that you have. Next, please. So the idea of an unfunded agreement is sort of anathema in the procurement system, because the procurement system is all about using appropriated funds to purchase goods and services. Well, we're typically in a research and development mode. We're not purchasing goods and services. We're trying to acquire knowledge and move the state of the art forward. In this particular example, DARPA partnered with the Electric Power Research Institute at a time when DoD was interested in high performance electric switching for things like the potential of an all-electric tank, or industry was deregulated and had a need for high performance electric power switching. So this unfunded agreement between the government and an industry association took place, where they issued a joint solicitation and then got in proposals. Some of those proposals were more applicable to the government, some were more applicable to industry, and some were equally applicable. So we had yours, mine, and ours funding for individual projects. basic relationship between industry and government was unfunded. It's the kind of thing you can do when we have sort of open aperture and focus on goals of the program. And then other transactions can also look more like typical contracts. They're just single party agreements without the overhead of the procurement system. So these are just a few examples of the flexibility of other transactions and goal orientation, and show you, yes, you can do partnering, you can create a consortium, but it doesn't have to be a single model consortium. So that's a message that we need to get out there.
I really like all of those examples. There's no one way to do business. And if you are focused on achieving mission goals, you know, it's up to the team. It's up to the program team to figure out what's the best way to get this done. And that's, I hope we were able to share some examples of how other people have thought about doing it, you know, figuring out how to achieve goals and doing it the best way they can. OTs, that's what they're about. They allow you to open up the aperture and figure out what's the best way. And it's you know, it really is up to you guys. So we hope that you will learn more about other transactions, and we are always here as a resource. You can find us at strategicinstitute.org, and always feel free to shoot us an email. We usually respond. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Rick, thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.
All right.